Okay everybody, Marco Palmera, founder of Ulysses. In this video we're going to talk about how to find deal flow using emails, cold emails, and other email strategies. Now, before we actually dive into the strategies that have worked for me and for my clients in sourcing profitable small businesses for sale, I want to make a little bit of a disclaimer and an introduction to explain why I believe email is such a good instrument for finding good deals and finding good leads when it comes to buying small businesses. Now, a lot of people underestimate the power of email because they feel many people don't check their emails anymore. They believe it is something that is saturated by tons of promotion and therefore is not a good instrument for reaching out to people that might be actually interested in selling their small business, their small company. In reality, email is still quite effective because it enables us as business buyers to get directly into the owner's inbox without having to go through layers of assistance or calling directly the business and having an employee answer the phone and then having to explain why we wish to talk with the owner. Now, of course, there is a strategy for handling cold calls and calls to businesses for finding opportunities, and I'm going to cover that in a separate video. But in this one, we're going to be talking about emails. So, emails itself is probably one of the most effective tools because it enables you to fundamentally automate the way you reach out to people. And if you do that correctly, you can get very good results out of it. One example I can give you is a client of ours that wasn't really convinced about the power of email and the value in integrating this pillar in their strategy for finding deals. But when we helped them and used this strategy to find opportunities north to $100 million, they were ultimately convinced this was a tool that can be used really for all sectors, all industries, and really for finding any type of business that is available for sale. In that particular case, we use it to reach out to CEOs of companies generating between $50 and $100 million. Now, that wasn't really one of our bread and butter cases, so to speak, because we generally find and help clients with our consultancy arm or with our done-for-you arm when it comes to finding deals below the $50 million threshold. So we target these SME businesses that are very abundant and that are more difficult to find. But nevertheless, that was a very good example that crystallized why email is such a good instrument for people to find leads and find businesses that are available for sale, that are looking for sale. Now, how do we go about structuring our email strategy? Well, the first thing we want to keep in mind is that we focus on strategy first and then execution after. No point in talking about how we build up our email outreach system, what kind of tools we use, what kind of approach we use, unless we understand the strategy behind it and what we want to do in order to get the desired outcome. So let's start with the objective and what is it that we wish to accomplish when we reach out to business owners to pitch the idea of selling the company. So the objective that we want to accomplish is to get into the owner's inbox as soon as possible and ultimately get into as many inboxes as possible, right? So we want to fundamentally eliminate friction between us and the owner, build up a conversation right away, and then potentially connect with the owner over a call, over a meeting if the owner is close to you. So the objective of emails is to, 1, reach out to the owner, 2, reach out to as many owners as possible, and 3, I would say automate and scale the process of reaching out to a lot of businesses without necessarily committing a lot of time to it. Now, I don't want to give you a false idea. We're not going to blast spam emails that are just going to sound very bad for people, and they're not going to help you in accomplishing your goal. What we're going to do is create personalized messages that can ultimately catch the interest of somebody who's actually really motivated to sell, and they're going to make this person reply to our email to initiate a conversation. So that is the goal. Now, I'm not going to talk about templates and the way we write down emails in this video, because again, that's a technical aspect of the strategy, and we generally build that up based on the industry you're in, the country you're operating in, and we generally go over that over our consulting sessions or our engagement with clients. But having said that, let's break down the overall strategy for our email outreach and see how that can fit, a more broad outreach strategy or more broad lead generation strategy when it comes to finding businesses for sale. So what I found to be very effective when it comes to email is either a 2-step sequence or a 3-step sequence. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, fundamentally, we don't want to bother people with tons of emails, because ultimately what we're doing is reaching out cold, right? We're contacting business owners for the first time. They don't know who we are, and we're pitching them the idea of potentially selling their business. Now, some of them might already be interested in it, some of them might not. But the point is, we don't want to beat, a dead horse to death. We want to just stick to the ones that are interested and they're going to reply quickly to our message, and leave the others untouched, and maybe potentially reach out to them later in the year. And so I found the 2 and 3-step sequence to work best. This one is generally an initial outreach with a quick follow-up. This is a outreach with follow-up and then an additional pitch at the end of it, just for the people that might not check the emails so often. And so depending on the country you're operating in, the industry you're operating in, you might want to try one of these two. I use them in a variety of industries, in a variety of countries, and they both work very well. It also depends what type of volume you're looking to do, right? You might want to reach out to tens of thousands of business owners. In that case, you might wish to use a sequence that is not so long, so that you can get to new leads and reach out to new leads as quickly as possible. But again, it ultimately comes down to testing, and my approach is always to test 2 different strategies for the same audiences, and then see which one performs the best, and then stick to that and continue using that for the entire industry that I'm operating in or that I'm looking to find leads into. So the initial strategy, again, is we're going to use 2 to 3 emails, and the idea, again, is to land in the owner's inbox. So we don't want to reach out to general businesses' inboxes or to assistants or to employees of the business, because that's going to kill the purpose of email. Email is supposed to be used to get in contact with the owner directly. If we can do that, we might as well stick to calls, to networking, to affiliates, to other strategy, other solutions that are going to be much more effective to get through people and get in front of the owner. So email has to be a channel that we use to reach out to the owners. Now you might say, well, I don't have a lot of business owners' emails. How can I get a list of people that I can actually reach out to? Well, there are many ways you can do that. You can scrape them, you can find them through a variety of channels, which I'm not going to list here because some of them we recommend to our private clients. But the point is, as of today, it's actually quite easy to get a list of leads, and there are a variety of tools that you can use to get these emails. If you're already starting with a list that you have pre-built, that's even better. But if you don't have a list, there are really tons of ways you can go about it. Of course, there are a few that work better than others, and those are the ones that we use when we source business acquisitions for ourselves or on behalf of our clients. But again, I'm not going to mention that in the video because people pay us a lot of money for that, and so I'll keep it for the people that are actually committing and working with us. But the point is, once we have these two sequences built in, what we want to do in our messages is keep them very personalized, because the goal is not to end up in spam, because spam is bad, right? We don't want our email to be marked as spam, and we don't want the providers to kind of like flag us as people who are sending tons of emails for no reasons. And so there are ways and there are tools that you can use to avoid this problem. And also personalization is one of the key tools in making email outreach effective, because it's going to create an email that is very special for the person reading it. It's going to have an item that is kind of like specific to their business. As a consequence, they're going to be much more inclined to answer. And of course, again, I'm not going to mention what are the templates, what are the personalization items that we use in the video. But the point is, you can be creative with that, and there are tons of ways you can personalize emails to make sure they land in the inbox. And of course, in terms of volume, there are tools that you can use that are only sending out X amount of emails per day, so that you avoid being marked as spam, and they're going to keep your email sequences healthy, your email inboxes healthy, and all the system quite effective overall. Now, provided we have an initial email copy, email outreach message that is effective, that is delivering, that is getting a reply, what is it that we do afterwards? So let's say that we're getting a reply, then what is it that I'd like to do when an email gets a positive reply, a owner that is actually interested in talking to us? Well, there are actually two sequences that I like to use for this purpose. The first is, of course, email, call, email, and the other is email, call, meeting. And of course, those depend on where you're operating and what is the area that you're covering, and so on and so forth. So to put it simply, once we get a positive reply to an email, what I want to do is get on a call with a person as fast as humanly possible, qualify the lead quickly, make sure it is an opportunity that might fit me or our clients if you're working on behalf of our clients, and then follow up with them via email, maybe asking for some additional information if the target is a fit, so that we can continue the discussion. Maybe we will sign an NDA and do all these nice things to take the process to the next level. That's kind of like the soft approach. Then there is a heavy approach, which is email, call, meeting, and it's escalating, as you can see. So we start with an email, which is regular message, then we go down to call, we qualify the lead again, and then the objective of the call is to set up a meeting to sit down with the person at the business, check out the business, talk with the owner, touch and feel what the company is all about. And of course, that only if the call has qualified the lead. That is a good opportunity for me or my client. This second option I found to be the most effective one, to be frank, especially if you're working in a very narrow geographic area and you can actually visit all these businesses. Of course, this is going to drain a lot of your time, but provided you do the selection correctly on a call, you're only going to meet and see businesses that are actually on target. And the reason why I like this approach better than the first one is because, again, it is escalating the process and it's taking me to a site visit and a potential soft negotiation in only 3 steps. So I started with an email, I pursued the opportunity with a call, and then I'm meeting the person, I'm starting the negotiation, I'm seeing what the business is all about, and I'm actually making bold moves ahead to negotiate this deal and potentially get a transaction going. So I like this a lot. Of course, it is subject to the area that you're covering. If you are spread across the US and you're targeting business in all 50 states, it's going to be hard for you to visit all these businesses, but you can adapt the strategy based on your geographic focus, right? Maybe you're going to visit only the businesses that are within a certain area, and the others you're going to interact via email for a little while until you're 100% sure these companies are a fit, and therefore you're going to plan a trip to go down and visit. So this is the sequence that the two sequences that I actually like to use once I get a positive reply to an email. Now, the whole email infrastructure to me is quite effective because it works even if I'm not around, and it helps me create an ecosystem for finding deal flow that is operating 24/7. So the cold call item, which we're going to discuss in another video, is also quite good in certain geographies, but it requires me or somebody in my team to be there and actually make the calls. And so it's time consuming, and it's not allowing me to do anything else while I'm doing the calls. With emails instead, if I build everything correctly, and if I know where to find the leads, how to build the email infrastructure, how to build up the follow-up system, then I can let this machine go and at the same time do something else. So potentially work with my affiliates, make cold calls, and do a lot of different things that are going to enable me to increase my deal flow pipeline, which is ultimately the goal, right? Create as many opportunities as possible within a short period of time so that I can go through all these no's or these bad deals, so to speak, until I get to the actual good deal. That is the hot one, the one that I want to close, the one that actually makes sense, and the one that I'm going to pursue. So email to me has been quite effective, and again, it is just one of the verticals that we develop when we work with clients, either through consulting sessions or with done-for-you solutions. And many times people underestimate the power of emails. I gave you the example earlier in the video of emails being effective in finding $50 to $100 million deals. With smaller transactions, it's even more effective because in most cases, it's going to be easier to find a business owner's email. You're going to have more leads to work with. As a consequence, email is going to produce much more results. And that applies again for all industries, all countries. I use it successfully in America, in Europe, in the UK, in the Middle East, many different sectors, healthcare, technology, infrastructure, renewables, really many different sectors. And the point really is you can build this on your own. You can have somebody like us do that or explain to you how it's done. The point is, email to me is very important when it comes to finding deal flow, because a lot of people are not understanding how valuable it is and how effective it can be if used correctly. And so with these few steps, with these few strategic approaches, you can really create a campaign that is going to produce tens of leads per week, even more than that if you do that correctly. And then work these leads until you find the business for sale that is actually the perfect one. And one important thing that is important to mention that, of course, I didn't share in the beginning of the video is that email is enabling you to get in contact with off-market deal flow. So opportunities that are not listed online, that are not available on any site. And as a consequence, you're going to get access to quality opportunities that are less competitive and that are also generally better than businesses that you might find on platforms or on sites where everybody can see the listing, right? And you're going to have preferential access to those opportunities. So I've seen email work very well for that perspective. Of course, the sequence that comes after the email is important, and is even more important than the email itself, because email, it's almost like putting a foot in the door and starting a conversation. But then after that, you gotta have a solid infrastructure in place to make sure you don't completely fuck up the relationship with the business owner, right? So you're gonna position yourself as the person who's actually committed in acquiring that business and is serious about looking at the opportunity. And there are certain ways to do that, and that's why what we do when we work with clients on building up a infrastructure for finding deal flow. And that is really the most important aspect of finding small businesses for sale. Many people focus too much on execution, negotiations, and closing. They don't understand that the most important element is finding the good deals. And so we spend most of our time in building up the infrastructure for finding these good deals, because then everything else that comes after becomes a lot easier. And it is easier for people to execute on good deals if they know how to find them, if they have a predictable way to find them, and they have different channels that are bringing them leads on a consistent basis. So we have slots that are booked up pretty much 2-3 months in advance all the time. And that's not only because we build nice and funny email sequences, right? It's because we create ecosystems for deal flow that work for small companies, for individuals, for investors, for entrepreneurs, really for anybody looking to acquire companies below $50 million in ticket size. So they are effective for pretty much anybody who's interested in acquiring assets but doesn't have the infrastructure to find these deals on their own. And so we currently have, a few slots available. You need to check the link below to make sure those are still available for application. But again, generally speaking, we're quite booked up, so we have a quite tight selection process that people need to go through before we actually pick new people to work with. Because again, once somebody gets on board with us, they generally want to stick with us for the long term, because they see the result and the performance of what we create for them, and as a consequence they want to keep that result coming, especially if they're looking to make multiple acquisitions, not just a one-off deal, right? But provided we have slots available, you can check the link below and see what the application process looks like. Generally, we only work with people that want to acquire companies between 250,000 and 50 million, again, so very small assets, and people that are prepared to pay the fees that we have, which are a lot of money for a lot of people. But again, we're not for everybody, otherwise we would just be in another business. The point is, what we do works for a very selected amount of people that are the ones who actually get all the leads, get all the clients, get all the businesses for sale that can ultimately execute on. So provided you are one of these individuals, you can check the link below, see what the application process looks like, and then you can take it from there. Our next videos will be around other strategies that we use in addition to emails, so a combination of different channels to find and select quality deal flow across countries and across geographies. This is pretty much it for this one, and I'll see you in the next one.